Good morning, everyone. A special guest. Thanks, Jane. Who is? Yes, he will be. Good morning, everyone. Can I ask Rep Tierney to lead us in the pledge, please? Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to Legislative Administration. We have a whole new cast of characters today. Some old friends, some new friends. Welcome, Representative Tannenbaum? Mandelbaum. Um, you're only going to see for a short period of time here, but you're more than welcome and participate as much as you can. Others I've worked with in the past. I don't know if everyone else has. Actually, we Representative Ebel. I don't know how many different committees we've been together on. We also have Representative Tulerski that I was on transportation with, and Representative Fox that I'm currently on transportation with. So it's nice to have familiar faces. We also have another special guest that has chimed in.
Rep. Cahill is substituting.
Yep, and okay, we good? We also have Rep. Cahill, will be substituting, and I think when the exec session begins, we'll have Representative Nodder will be in on the Republican side. The plan of attack today is we only have our last two bills. Both Senate bills, obviously, Senate Bill 605, which deals with ethics, and we also have the other bill that deals with the portrait for Senator Martha Fuller Clark. And we're waiting for an amendment on that, so hopefully that arrives before we get too far into the work session. I'm not anticipating much of a problem with any of the amendments that I've seen. Are there any other amendments that anyone has that we want to talk about? Representative Tulerski, you have an amendment or no? Coming? Okay. Dealing with what I would like to do is take up 605 first,
Sure.
dealing with the ethics.
The amendment is for 605.
Excellent. So let's jump into the work session, and we can have dueling amendments going here. I have a feeling, my prior knowledge is that 605 Amendment 1669 here will take care of yours. So yes, that's my secret information. We'll see. So with that, I'm going to hand out, and I should explain a little bit too while this is going out, the process that we've gone through. That goes that way, this goes that way. You should be extras if you want to just leave them down at the end. Rep Fox, if you can leave whatever's extra just at the table. Are we still missing one or two? It's just one page. Yeah, that's right. You would have already got that in caucus. The only piece of information after the hearing that we had a couple weeks ago, that was done 2 or 3 days prior to the ethics committee meeting. I attended the ethics committee meeting, and they were nice enough to push me to the top of the agenda, and we discussed this bill. The amendment that you have before you is a direct understanding of what was discussed at that ethics committee meeting. So the changes that I'll point out to you came from that ethics committee meeting. And this will be the first time that we've heard them. I don't have one. Thank you. I'll first
Yeah, that's it.
point to I think there's 4 total changes. The first is beginning on line 8. In the original bill, organizations were defined in this section, beginning on line 5. And beginning on line 7, they excluded the United States of America, the state of New Hampshire, and a county within New Hampshire. That's where it ended in the original bill. This amendment adds or any political subdivision within the state of New Hampshire. The reason for that change was a discussion that our House attorney had with the Senate attorney, asking why political subdivisions weren't included in that list. And the answer that we received back was, well, we left them off because they wouldn't have qualified anyway, because they weren't receiving financial remuneration by any organization in line 13. So he was under the impression that they weren't paid. Any of the selectmen, fire chiefs, and so on, all the way down, water commissioners and everything else. It was his assumption that those positions weren't paid, so therefore they wouldn't qualify under this anyway. So when it was pointed out that they do get paid in some instances, aldermen, it was necessary to add that back in. So that's why you see, or any political subdivision within the state of New Hampshire. That's change number 1, and I'm going to make that 1. Change number 2 is just a couple of lines down on line 11, beginning on line 11. This is the section that says a legislator shall recuse him or herself from participation in any official legislative activity only when the legislator or a member of the legislator's household, and then it listed those 3 items. It wasn't clear in the original bill to me that you needed to satisfy all of those. And so that's change number 2, to include all of the following. Change number 3, and I'm not sure if I'm going backwards or forwards here. I included the language are not limited to on both line 19 and line 26. One of them had it originally and one didn't. I put it in both of them, but I don't remember which one had it in the original. All that is doing, obviously, is making it clear to the reader that those aren't exhaustive lists. There are other possibilities that someone could have. That's all it does. You're looking puzzled at me, Representative, but so that's change number 3. And change number 4 is on the last line of the second page, effective date January 1st, 2025. That was specifically asked for by the Ethics Committee. I think reflecting the fact that, and I'm thinking both the House bill and the Senate bill both had a 30 days effective date on it. It was pointed out to me in that ethics meeting that there would be some difficulty in well, just for one practical purpose, crafting the books for the next legislative session in time. So everything, an agreement was made to say January 1st, so that it was clear that these were to be in effect for the upcoming legislative session. And that's change number 4. And that's what this amendment does. Now, open for conversation, questions, comments. Representative Delarcy.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Chairman Hill. I want to thank you for having me. I just want to clarify something.
Sure.
I will say that your suggestion number 2, which is found on lines 11 and 12, for the most part meets the amendment that I had drafted to clarify the language on those certain situations where the person would have to recuse themselves. Can you, just for my own information, give me a little more explanation of the first change on any political subdivision within the state of New Hampshire? Just explain that a little more in depth of what that actually means.
Sure. It would, just as we are excluding someone that works for, back up just a second. This 605, this Senate amendment, I gear it more towards the employer-employee relationship than what we crafted in the House originally. This was brought to the table because of the request for an opinion done by Senator Carson primarily, and her relationship with her employer at UNH. Yes, UNH. So what they were trying to do here, if I understand the explanation I received, is they were trying to exclude from recusal anyone that worked for their employer would be the federal government, the state of New Hampshire, a county, and it was their understanding that because no municipal employee would have qualified anyway, using those 3 qualifiers beginning on line 13, 14, and 15, that there was no need for them to have the municipal employees included in that definition under organization of who was excluded. That's my understanding. Does that answer your question?
I think so. So that line, any political subdivision, is meant to include anyone on the municipal level that it would
Correct.
qualify to.
Correct.
Great.
That seems to be the phraseology that we
preferred
use
language.
in a lot of places.
That's all I needed to know. That
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Yep. Yes, Representative Mandelbaum.
I have a little bit of a concern about the process with that third change that was suggested, which adds but are not limited to. I'm just a bit concerned that if we don't kind of outline these like specific areas of influence, I mean, would it then be up to the individual member of the general court to say, I don't fall in these categories, but I'm going to recuse myself? Or kind of how does that work on a practical level?
Welcome to legislative administration. We have been dancing around with definitions for 3 years or so, and it's virtually impossible, in my estimation, it's virtually impossible for us to have listed every possibility of every case that someone may be sitting in Reps Hall or the Senate chambers that would fall under that category. So you may look at this as a cop-out, but it does serve the purpose of at least alerting people that even though they may not fall into one of the named, that there are possibilities of other occupations or positions that would also qualify. And I think the genius of that'll come back to me somewhere along the line, but the genius of the drafter of this was including the title saying facts and circumstances tending to show substantial influence. To me, that clearly indicates that this is not an exhaustive list. These are every, if I learned one thing in going to ethics committees and listening and reading opinions from them, it's impossible to foresee every possibility that could come forth. So I think this is their best way of doing that.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Sure. Yes, Representative Wall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate what you just said for clarification because the Ethics Committee has really struggled with this for a long, long time. And I agree with the chairman because there's no way we could create a whole laundry list of every position. And I think inevitably people will be going to Rich Lambert or the Ethics Committee to ask for further clarification as time goes by. But I think this is as close as we could get at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just give you some more of the background here. Our original goal was to try to create something that someone sitting in section 3, middle of the row, and a bill is in front of them, have the ability to decide for themselves if there is an issue that they need to recuse themselves for. We've all been in a situation where a bill comes up that flew under the radar for us personally and didn't know that it was coming up, and all of a sudden you start thinking, gee, I wonder if I have a problem with this. I've said this time and time again, if you think you have a problem with this, you should recuse yourself. That's the catch-all. To me, that's how I would operate. Failing that, what we started with, I think, in the very first conversation, the very first hearing, was the idea of perhaps even creating some kind of a decision tree for that, for a new rep coming in and orientation, and hand them a tree that says, if you have issues with you and your employer, and you start following down that way, and the same thing if you have individuals in your family that have employers that may be having legislation that comes before us in committees. There seems to be a need or a desire for that. It's very difficult to do the more we worked with it. So I'm not going to say this is an exhaustive process and this is the outcome of that. I'm going to say these are two significant steps forward, one in the Senate and one in the House, that operate in different areas. There still needs to be further work. There are other places we can go. This is darn good as far as I'm concerned. Representative Evil.
I think it's darn good too.
Well, my day is made.
All right.
I don't know what the rest of you are going to do for the day, but my day is made.
But could you just explain again the rationale for pushing back the effective date? I think I followed most of it.
Sure.
If you don't mind, thanks.
And we may want to actually bring in more learned person from the ethics committee. Actually, we have on our committee a member of the ethics committee, but you came in, I'm not sure, for this part of the conversation the other day. They just assumed right from the jump that a 30-day effective date was going to be, it was 60 in the original? I apologize. I'll take that back. 60 days. They thought that that was going to be unworkable from their standpoint, from the ethics committee standpoint. And it seemed from that conversation that their goal was always, or they thought our goal should be to have this ready for the next legislative session. And then I think it was Mr. Lambert that brought up the idea that yes, we would have to have new guidelines printed, and there was some discussion over the color, whether it's purple or not, and so they were thinking that if they could get this ready for January 1st, that would be the acceptable date. I also, upon the drive home, started wondering, I wonder if also there may be some concern with the ethics cases that they have before them now, applying that to anything that changes in the interim. So that's my guess. That part was not brought up. That was just from my own head on the way home. But I know when you start changing rules midstream, there's sometimes problems. And even having this discussion in ethics, knowing that there were petitioners, well, I don't know if that's what they're called, but witnesses behind me, already there to talk about their cases, I'm sure they would be thinking about how that affects their case, any of the changes that are coming forth. So truly, I did not question them on the January 1st date any further, because to me, it is designed for the next legislature, not this legislature. So I had no real problem with it. Representative Pilarski?
I was speaking with Representative Evil earlier, and my only question would be, would there be a need for this to be, go into effect for Organization Day? Since we're all sworn in the month prior. I don't want to muddy the waters. I'm just,
Yeah,
the reality is we're sworn in as representatives on
December 4th
December
-ish
4th
or
or
something
5th
like
of this
that.
coming year.
I'm getting a head shake
Yeah.
no from Mr. Lambert. Can you maybe jump on the table for a second? Or sit reluctantly, even?
I think the biggest reason for holding back is because the statute requires that the guidelines be consistent with the statute. And so we need to amend the guidelines, which is a process in and of itself. We'll probably just, in the past, we've just almost verbatim incorporated any sort of statutory change into the guidelines, but decisions would have to be made as to where exactly the guidelines that would go, and language has to be agreed upon, and then the House and the Senate must approve that amendment. So I don't know if
When-
they'd be willing to do that on any sort of veto day. In the past, that's not been the case.
When is that accepting done in relation to Organization Day? Is that done on, my memory is not what it used to be. When do we normally accept the guidelines?
When you vote on the rules, because the rules incorporate the guidelines. The House
And
rules.
that's January 4th typically or something,
I
right?
think so.
Process is everything.
Thanks for clarifying. That helps.
Thank you.
Also, all of our opinions and interpreted rulings need to be reviewed, because some of them give guidance which would no longer would apply. For example, the interpreted ruling in the back of the booklet is all about conflicts of interest. And so there should be added into that a provision about when recusal is required. And perhaps there'll be an additional interpretive ruling that would help, be something short and just about this, that also could be something that would be helpful. So all those things have to be done by the committee.
I think I actually should have just had you come to the table first rather than me stumble through it. I think that would have been the smarter move. Live and learn. Thank you. Can you hold for just a second and see if there's any other questions?
I was just gonna say though, before January works because that's when we actually vote on the things, the House rules and all those things. It's December is more you become the legislature. It's January when we actually start getting down to business. So it shouldn't conflict from December to January.
Thank you, Representative Constable. Further discussion on that? Okay. Procedurally, I'm not sure. Yeah, we're in a work session. It's just us here. We're not talking to anybody else. So, what I've also done is taken this language in this amendment and asked the drafting attorney to assume this language passes as is, and then give me a welcome, Representative Nodder. Take any seat is fine. And then give me back a merged version of the House passed position for what the Senate has, our House version of the ethics bill, and this 605 Senate version as amended with what I just gave you. And my likening is make this a zipper so that we have one document that is containing the information from both the House and the Senate versions. And the reason I did it was so that we didn't have conflicts between what 14C4 4A said in one version versus what 14CA Roman A said on the, not Roman A, 14C 4-A said in the Senate version. So this is her attempt at that. I'm not sure whether that clarifies or not. It's more done for me for a process or a belt and suspenders approach. My thought is that if I could get this over to, or have this in one document, then I don't almost care whether the Senate tables our House version or not, or something. We have one bill that has both things in it, and the House would be in control of this ethics package from the House and the Senate. So that's what this is. I'm happy to hand it out or just have discussions on it or anything else
Mr.
that we
Chairman?
have. Yes,
So
Representative.
essentially, you're saying the Senate is having exactly what we're having, we hope, so that whichever version is adopted reflects the other one, mirrors the other.
Actually, I have had, thank you for the question, because I have had conversations with the Senate chair, who has our House version. And it is not their intention, obviously, to not deal with it. They intend to. Stranger things have happened. So what I hoped to do after this conversation that we had is provide a copy to the chair of the Ethics Committee and let him amend or decide whether he wants to amend the House version to this so that it has both the House and Senate. Because these two don't work in opposite ways. They cover different areas of the ethics laws. So one, as I mentioned earlier, 605 deals more with the employer-employee relationship. The House version works more with the individual personal or financial benefits from a legislator. So they're not doing opposite things. They're doing simultaneously. They're doing different things. So to me, it makes sense that at some point we're going to have these merged. I was going to see if we could just pass it in that version in both the House and Senate off the bat. So, Representative Tulowitzki.
Do you know off the top of your head the bill number on the House version? I was just going to pull it up so I could see what
1388?
we're talking about.
13, House Bill 1388. And I think we heard that they're having that hearing May 8th, which is, what's that?
May 8th, 9:30 in the morning. I think it's State House 100.
Oh,
I think.
okay. I'm not aware. When I spoke with the chair, he wasn't sure when he was going to have the hearing, so. But that's what this is, if anyone wants it, or whether, I don't know whether we should just set it aside and know that if the House and Senate passes it, this is what it'll ultimately look like, more than likely. Or whether we should take it up in exec session and pass it, and then provide them a copy of it in the hearing on May 8th. Representative Evil.
I wouldn't mind taking a look at it. I mean, basically what you're saying is it's a mashup of 1388 and 605, but nothing's really changed. It's
Nothing
just-
changed.
Unless there was a mistake or something.
Yeah, the only, and maybe, our researcher can, well, I don't know if you've had a conversation with OLS attorney or not about it. No, okay. The only thing that I was concerned about is I didn't want one bill in some area to conflict with another or not make it possible to work. That's all I was trying to do, and try to do it in advance rather than get to a point where we pass them both and then find that we either have to come back to do something so that they actually fit together. I was trying to be proactive, that's all. But yep, I'm happy to hand it out. But I'm keeping one this time. And I did confirm that the changes that we just talked about are in this one. So it's actually, because we haven't voted on that amendment yet. And I think I need to confirm with Representative Tulowitzki. Do we want to, did I go out of order? Should I have brought up the amendment that you have here, or is that pretty much taken
Thanks for your
care of?
consideration. I think with my ranking member's approval that my amendment has been absorbed into your first one. So,
Okay, all right.
do you agree?
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
May I ask a question?
If-
Representative?
Absolutely, well, if she'll
Didn't you
take
want,
it.
thank you very much. Didn't you want to add the word "and" at the end of remuneration? It's understood, but it's better to
Well,
clarify it.
I can show you what the language is. I'm not sure. Well, I guess if we're actually drafting another amendment and merging both, and there's any tweaks made, all right, I will pass this out just so you can see the clarification. There was an extra "and," I think. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Um,
In the section, that's incorporated on change number 2.
Yes, change number 2, if you look at line
Oh, there is an and after
Uh,
Roman 2.
right, there's a "and" after line 14. My draft has an "and" after
Line
line
13.
13, and
Yeah.
it just says all of the following. So it'd be receives financial remuneration from an organization and holds a position to X, blah, blah, and it's one "and."
Yep.
However, if there is going to be another draft, that would be the only change.
Yep, I didn't catch that. Good, thank you. I will say I did review this as best I could, but I encourage keener eyes than mine to make sure that something wasn't either duplicated or dropped but this is an easy way to do it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
could you just point out the end of the first bill and the beginning?
no,
You can't? Okay.
no, because they're truly a zipper.
Oh, well then I'm not gonna be much help
Yeah,
unless I
well,
have.
this is what I'm saying.
focus.
It's
Okay.
very hard to do. And I'm not sure, as I told you, our original goal was to make this, and getting to Representative Mendelbaum's point, to get this to the point where the average person could read this in section 3. I'm not sure we're there yet, but it does, as far as I can see, and the places that I looked, it does incorporate all of the language in the appropriate spots. Representative, yeah, Mr. Lambert.
Mr. Chairman, I see a possible conflict on page 1, line 31, the word only, which,
Line 31, you say?
yes, the word
Okay.
only. So that part, this language from 605.
Yeah,
says those are the only circumstances where recusal is required. And
right.
later on, there are other circumstances where recusal is required.
And I did mention this to the vice chair the other day, that it does seem when you merge these things like we have done, it would seem that something like that would pop up that we didn't anticipate when we drafted the House, that there would be a Senate version. So that's one of them. It does. I agree with you that it could potentially mislead. You get one brownie point so far. Representative
My
Eagle.
only thought is if we're gonna all go through this super carefully, we might not be able
Do it.
to do it today.
I know. That's what I wondered as well.
I think it's a great idea, but
Yeah, and more from a procedural standpoint than anything else, because I think it would save an awful lot of floor time, either in the House or the Senate, if all one or the other group was doing was standing up and saying, the Senate has already passed the combination bill, so it renders ours moot. We don't need to vote on this. That saves, or the reverse, if the House has passed both of them that incorporated the changes in both, we're done. Procedurally, it's just a cleaner way to do it, but I agree with the interest of time, it may not be the lot. Although if it's something as simple as this, I don't know if that would be picked up in enrolled bills or not. It seems, I don't know, maybe it's too clever by half, I don't know. We can do whatever you'd like. Why don't we, could you check to see if we have the amendment yet on the Martha Fuller Clark bill, which number escapes me? 331A. Thank you. Whatever you want.
I was trying to do it, but the numbering has changed.
Yes.
And it's just not.
The language, here's how I finally looked at it. It seemed to me the language is all the same. It's the placement that was different. So I'm not sure that there's anything more than, I don't know, deep in the weeds conversation than it is
Mr. Chairman,
basis. Yep.
I think maybe some of the confusion might be that we have the preamble in this and didn't have it in the amendment, and so they're having
Oh.
trouble placing that.
So, yeah, that's a good point. All of line 1 through line, well, 16, I guess, is the language from the original House bill that that were the findings, in other words, and the purpose. That was that comes from the original, not from Senate Bill 605. So.
Essentially, Mr. Chairman, that's the preamble to the bill, just so people will understand.
Yes. Yes. On the original 1388. Yep. Rep Constable, sorry.
No, you're fine. It's just a minor thing. On page 2, line 6, rightfully, we don't have to recuse ourselves for the budget, but it says shall not recuse, and I'm one of those shall means you must. So shall not recuse is telling me that I'm not allowed to recuse myself on you know what I'm saying? It's it really should be a may not.
That's already in the, that should be brought up next on May 8th in the
For,
Senate version, really,
right,
yeah.
like it's just, to me, I think it's just a clerical. A legislator shall not recuse himself from the budget. Is saying I'm not allowed to recuse myself from the budget, instead of a legislator
it's
may not
backwards?
recuse himself or herself.
Shall not. I'm. You laugh, but in review of all of the other states that that Jen put together for us, more often than not, that is what they are doing is making them. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Would you mind? Thank you. I think I'm of the mind, and I'll see what everyone thinks. I'm of the mind to set aside this amendment, and just deal with the original amendment that we dealt with, and not bother trying to be clever and merge these things together. Where is everybody else on that? That would work. I mean, I could easily drop this on them and say, by the way, here's what we've done in committee. It wouldn't have passed the House by then, but here's for your own usage. Yeah. And that gives more time for other people to look at it, I guess. Okay. See, this is why we do work sessions. All right,
What is our plan on?
right now the plan is we have one more amendment coming on the other bill. I'm putting aside 605 for right now. I think we beat that horse. But thank you, Mr. Lambert. You're free to go. I will describe for you the amendment, and then follow up with when the copies come. So on the other bill, which is 331A, that, as you may or may not be aware, was to authorize the Historical Committee to accept a portrait of Senator Martha Fuller Clark and hang it in the State House. It has been pointed out to us several times by several different people that the historical committee would like the discretion of being able to hang things where they choose. I guess in the interest of space and or I don't know what else. So I went to OLS originally with the amendment to just change that State House to simply saying at the discretion of the Joint Historical Committee. The hanging would be overseen by the Joint Historical Committee. While I was there, I tacked on an acceptance and mirrored the language of the Martha Fuller Clark line, and just said the Joint Historical Committee is authorized to accept a portrait of Wentworth Cheswell and oversee the hanging at their discretion in the State House complex or something like that. So that's all that the amendment has. It's just those two lines and then an effective date, I guess. But if anyone wants background on why we put in Wentworth Cheswell, I think that was in the prior term, was it? It wasn't last year, was it? Prior term? Yes, you do. So for those that aren't aware, Wentworth Cheswell is in some circles called the Black Paul Revere. Is one thing he was known for. There's other groups that believe, and this is questioned, I guess, whether he was the first elected official, first Black elected official in the United States. And yet, we had a bill 2 terms ago that ran into difficulty. The House passed it. It went to the Senate. The Senate had difficulty with it for 2 reasons. One, that we were being asked to pay for it. Are there more? Oh, you have some over there. The original bill, the legislature was being asked to pay for the commissioning of a portrait, and that was one issue the Senate had. The second issue was they didn't believe, it was brought up in testimony, that they didn't believe that there was a picture of Wentworth Cheswell that they could replicate for a portrait. So they substituted and sent back to us an amendment to turn the portrait into a plaque. That didn't sit well with this committee. And I think we even went to Committee of Conference over it to say, what are you thinking? And it ended up dying with no one signing off on the bill. So this is a way of bringing it back to the attention of us and say that we do think that there should be some portrait of the of Wentworth Cheswell hung somewhere in the State House, or hung somewhere in the State House complex. So that's what the amendment in front of you does. You can see that lines 11 through 14 mirror lines 3 through 6, except for the names. Representative Wall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for all that you've been offering. I will say that we met with Senator Susie this morning, who said that actually the Martha Fuller Clark portrait ran into some bumps in the Senate, which surprised me. I'm wholly in favor of the legislation for us to accept the portrait and or direct the Historic Committee to accept the portrait. I serve on that committee. The committee has to choose where it can be displayed. And right now, a lot of the portraits are being rearranged in the State House according to certain priorities, and we don't know in the future what will be happening with the various portraits and such. But we're trying very hard to recognize women in the State House at this point, and I'm fully in favor of the bill from Arthur Fuller Clark. When it comes to adding Wentworth Cheswell, we're fulfilling a commitment that this committee made, I believe, 2 years ago. Because Wentworth Cheswell, I do have some facts on him. Yes, he's known as the Black Paul Revere. He was the first elected person. Actually, they called him a mulatto because of his skin color at the time. But he was the first of color to be elected to any office in this country. Wentworth Cheswell was a significant individual from Newmarket. There is a state plaque on a stand in Newmarket near his grave. I remember one time when we were working on this particular bill, I went to the research office, and all 4 researchers worked with me diligently one whole afternoon trying to find some picture of Wentworth Cheswell. And I remember running up to Paul Smith and saying, hey, we at least have a picture of a descendant of his, near descendant, one generation down. All we're asking for is a likeness of him, trying to come close at least. This gentleman really, really should be recognized because he was the first person of color in the whole country and from New Hampshire. He was a Mason. He had a very distinguished career, well-educated, came from a good family, and certainly does deserve recognition. I don't have copies of what I have here on him to hand out today, but I'm just reminding the committee that we were committed to doing something with this. So I'm supporting this amendment because I'm totally in favor of the Martha Fuller Clark portrait coming forward. For those who haven't seen it, it's in room, I think it's State House 102. It's in Senator Donna Soucy's office. It is really a fine, fine portrait, and she did accomplish a lot here. But it is up to the Historic Committee to figure out where to place it once we give them authority to accept it. We're still having some concern about a portrait of Wentworth Cheswell, but there are a lot of people came and testified in favor of the portrait. We will not be paying for it. I don't know if the offer still stands. It does. Paul Smith is a Mason, and he's saying that the Masons will pay for this, so it's no obligation financially to the state. So I will support that as well. So I'm asking for support on the amended version. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Further discussion? We're in work session still, so. I don't have anything to add. I appreciated the additional information that I was reminded of. And I don't think I knew that there was any kind of difficulty in the Senate with the Martha Fuller Clark. I thought everyone signed on to it, actually. So
I was a little surprised to hear that this morning
Yeah.
myself. They all wanted it, and Senator Soucy did not
I'm
clarify
not
for us
aware
what
of
the
any,
problem
and no
was.
one
She just said
testified
there was some,
against
yeah,
it. So.
yeah. No one voted against it, but she indicated there were some questions, but we don't know. But it passed nevertheless, so now it's ours.
Okay. Well, if there's no other conversation about that, I will suggest that we take a 5-minute break and then come back into exec session and knock our final 2 bills off the calendar and get going. Good. 5 minutes. That.
Who's going to be where? What are you doing?
Do we need to caucus? I don't. You get your ducks in a row? No? Okay. We actually would like to have 2 minutes here for getting our clerk work put together. So we'll be here. You can have the office?
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. We're in recess until 11:15.
11:15, good?
Thanks. All right, we're back. I will open the exec session and recognize Vice Chair Sheehan for a motion. Senate Bill 605.
Yes, I move Senate Bill 605 ought to pass.
Representative Sheehan moves Senate Bill 605 ought to pass. Representative Wall
I will second that.
seconds. The bill is open for further amendment. I recognize Representative Sheehan.
Yes, I move amendment number 2024-1663H ought to pass.
Representative Sheehan moves, I lost it. 1663H. Would you like to speak to your motion, or would you like someone else to?
Yeah, I'll defer to the chair, please.
Fine. So Amendment 1663H made 4 changes. One or two of them are just more cleaning up of the language. Change number 1 on line 8 of the amendment added political subdivisions within the state of New Hampshire to the list of other places that are not included in the definition of organization. That would be change number 1. Change number 2 was making clearer that all 3 of the factors needed to be satisfied in order for a legislator to recuse. Number 3 merely clarified the language that both the groups or people listed who have substantial influence are not limited to that list. It's not an inclusive list. Likewise, in this section below it, with facts and circumstances tending to show substantial influence, we also wanted to make it clear that those are not an inclusive list. And so we've also made sure that the language says, but are not limited to, on lines 26 and 27. And lastly is the effective date, which was changed from 60 days to effective January 1st of 2025, reflecting the fact that these changes for ethics and recusal are to be part of the next lucky batch of legislators that come in for the next session. That is the amendment. Is there any further discussion on Amendment 1663H? Would you like to speak to your second? No.
I would just say that given the serious discussion we all had and the fact that people all participated when they wanted to express their concerns as well as support, I would support, I hope everyone will support the amendment. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, I'll ask the clerk to call a roll on Amendment 1663H.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On ought to pass for Amendment 1663H, Vice Chair Sheehan.
Yes.
Representative Costabile.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Nodder.
Yes.
Representative McCarter.
Yes.
Representative Tierney.
Yes.
Representative Cahill.
Yes.
Representative Wall.
Yes.
Representative Nutting Wong.
Yes.
Representative Turcott.
Yes.
Representative Lane.
Yes.
Representative Ebel.
Yes.
Representative Mandelbaum.
Yes.
Representative Fox.
Yes.
Representative Tolerski.
Yes.
And the chair.
Chair votes yes.
Sixteen yea, 0 nay. on the amendment.
Amendment passes, 1663. Now we have an ought to pass as amended on Senate Bill 605. Recognize the chair for a motion. You already moved it, actually. All I need is further discussion on. Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
On ought to pass as amended for SB 605, Vice Chair Sheehan,
Yes.
Representative Costabile,
Yes.
Clerk votes yes, Representative Nodder,
Yes.
Representative McCarter,
Yes.
Representative Tierney,
Yes.
Representative Cahill,
Yes.
Representative Wall,
Yes.
Representative Nutting Long,
Yes.
Representative Turcott,
Yes.
Representative Lane,
Yes.
Representative Ebel,
Yes.
Representative Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Representative Fox,
Yes.
Representative Tulorsky,
Yes.
and the chair.
Chair votes yes.
16-0, unanimous.
Any objections to consent? Hearing none, consent it'll be. Just a minute here to reconfigure a few things, and we'll be back to you on Senate Bill 331.
Okay.
I didn't ask, did anybody want to make the motion on?
I'm sorry?
Does anybody want to make the motion on?
Does anyone on this side, ladies?
Anybody want the motion?
Does
on-
anyone want to make the
on
motion
Clark?
on this bill?
Okay.
Unless Janet drew the ranking member.
May I clarify something? I'm unsure if a sub can make a motion.
Good point.
Ooh, okay.
I move ought to pass.
Well, we haven't got there yet, but I
Yeah,
will,
I move the
I
amendment.
will make
Yes.
sure. I'll have Vanessa make the motion on the amendment.
Yes, I move we adopt the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
1708.
Okay, we're back. Opening the exec session on Senate Bill 331A. Would recognize the ranking member for a motion.
Thank you. I move, are we on the motion or are we on the bill?
You're on the bill, and then I will
Yes,
ask for
I
the
would do
amendment.
ought to pass as amended.
Nope, just not
Mm.
to pass.
Well, I
Just
said
ought to
ought to pass before and you said no. Anyway, I move ought to pass.
Thank you. Second by Representative McCarter. The bill is open for amendment. Recognize Representative Sheehan for a motion.
Yeah, I move amendment number 2024-1708H.
Representative Sheehan moves amendment 1708H. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Wall. Representative Sheehan, would you like to speak to your motion?
I'll defer to the chair.
Thank you, Representative Sheehan. The amendment on Senate Bill 331H. The original bill authorizes the Joint Historical Committee to accept a portrait of Senator Martha Fuller Clark, which I believe has already been painted and is in Senator Soucy's office, I think, at the moment. And a change was made to that original bill by making sure that the hanging of the portrait was, and the overseeing of that hanging was done at the discretion of the Joint Legislative Historical Committee. The original bill said that the painting had to be hung in the State House. The amendment changes that to at the discretion of the Joint Legislative Historical Committee. In addition, the amendment adds a similar language to allow the Joint Legislative Historical Committee to accept a portrait of Wentworth Cheswell and oversee the location of the hanging of that portrait at the discretion of the Joint Legislative Historical Committee. And that's the sum and substance of the amendment. Representative Wall, would you like further conversation about the operation of the amendment?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Some concern was raised about frequency of changing where the portraits are and this, that, and the other. A lot of the portraits were just put up by someone's judgment back when, without a lot of consultation with the Historic Committee. I'm not even sure the Joint Historic Committee existed way back when. A great thought, respect, and consideration is given to where the portraits are hung, and we don't get them that often. Most recently, we had the portrait of Marilla Ricker donated to the state. It is at the State House. She was the first woman who ever ran for governor. She didn't qualify to vote because she died just before women got the right to vote. That's hanging on the first floor of the State House. If anyone has any questions or concerns about where Senator Martha Fuller Clark's portrait might be displayed, they're welcome to come to the Joint Historic Committee and express opinions, and I think that would be very welcome. It's a bipartisan committee, and it's joint, meaning the House and the Senate. So you have some good people there. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Wall. I concur. I think it's a great idea if people would show up at the Joint and Legislative Historical Committee. Further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On Amendment 1708 for SB 331, Vice Chair Sheehan,
Yes.
Representative Costabile,
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Nodder,
Yes.
Representative McCarter,
Yes.
Representative Cahill.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I wrote the wrong, Rep Tierney.
Yes.
Okay, Reps, Cahill. Representative Bald, I just totally
Yes.
fell off my game.
Yes.
Rep Nutting Long,
Yes.
Rep Turcott,
Yes.
Representative Lane,
Yes.
Representative Ebel,
Yes.
Representative Mandelbaum.
Yes.
Representative Fox,
Yes.
Representative Tularski.
Yes.
And the chair.
Yes.
Okay, 16-0, it's unanimous on the amendment.
Amendment 2024-1708H passes. We now have Senate Bill 331 as amended. And that, I believe, was
Sheehan.
adopted, was offered by you, right? Is it not to pass for Representative
Oh,
Wall?
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Um,
the wrong.
Further discussion on the bill as amended. I think we've expressed our opinions on this. Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll. Senate Bill 331A as amended.
Okay, on the motion of ought to pass as amended, Vice Chair Sheehan,
Yes.
Representative Costabile,
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Nodder,
Yes.
Representative McCarter,
Yes.
Representative Tierney,
Yes.
Representative Cahill,
Yes.
Representative Wall,
Yes.
Representative Nutting Long,
Yes.
Representative Turcott,
Yes.
Representative Lane,
Yes.
Representative Ebel,
Yep.
Representative Mandelbaum.
Yes.
Representative Fox,
Yes.
Representative Tularski,
Yes.
and the chair.
Chair votes yes.
All right, 16-0 on that.
Hearing
Unanimous.
any objection to consent? Hearing none. It will be on consent. I think that ends our work for legislation. We do have, however, a couple of probably impromptu meetings coming up. One is going to be if any of these are changed and we need concur and non-concur. And we also have the existing bills that are over in the Senate that we're working on. Legislative Youth Advisory Council is still being worked on. The others lose me. There's something else. So this isn't going to be the end of the committee, but for now, we've done all the work. I want to thank you all for all of your hard work through the year. I also want to thank our very fine substitutes for today. Thank you. Get a little window on how legislative administration likes to work on a bipartisan fashion. Representative Wall, you have your light flashing.
Yes,
What would
yes.
you, what can I help
Thank
you
you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank all the committee members. It's a joy working with you. I want to thank all the substitutes who came in today. It was really good of all of you to show up. It's kind of tough showing up in a different committee and getting up to speed on the issues, but you did it and you did it beautifully. I want to thank the staff also and thank our leadership on the committee. Thank you.
I echo, our staff is phenomenal. I actually thought, this is probably more than you ever want to know. I actually thought we were in deep trouble when we lost Pam Smarling as our researcher. It's A and 1A and 1B, I think, is what we have a very fine researcher that has helped us enormously here. Likewise, we also have a committee assistant that has been very helpful. I always think some of this is good when it's seen and not heard and everything just moves smoothly. Sometimes that's the best for as an assistant, but our researcher is spectacular. I hate saying that because now somebody will try to steal her, so that's not good. Anything else that anyone else wants to bring up? Any other concerns, comments, questions? Seeing none, we are done for the day. Have a nice day.